Yeah, obviously it was a really, really rough day or night when all that went down this week. Uh, just kind of rewinding through how it all played out, at least for me. Uh, I just, still kind of in shock about it all. It's hard to believe the next time I go to a racetrack that I won't see Jason. I don't think that's really sunk in for me, and I don't know if it's really sunk in for anyone. Because that's the kind of racer he is. He's a racer. You could see him at any track, whether it was here for the Cup race or last week for the Cup race at Pocono or, some late model race or a sprint car show on the other end of the country that you just show up to watch. He could be there. And, the experience that I've had with him is just that he was, a pure racer who cared enough for the sport that even when there was a race that he perhaps wasn't going to make a lot of money off of or make a strong living from, he raced it because that's what he does. That's who he is, or who he was, I should say. And that's a real racer. And, Jason may not have had the most amount of success at the Cup level, but at the end of the day, he has the respect of the garage. He had the respect of the garage. I can't even put it in past tense. That's how it's still in my mind. But he had the respect of the garage because he was a racer, because he would do those things. And that's hard to come by in this garage. It's hard to earn some respect. And Jason had it, because of his commitment to the sport in that sense. Obviously, he was still a very talented racer who won at a lot of levels, which gives him a lot of respect as well. But he was just a pure racer, and there's those are tough to see lost. They're hard to come by, especially these days, and tough to see lost because I think most all of us at this level can really relate to that.
I remember the pass he made to win at IRP. When he basically just sold the farm down in 1 and 2 to make that pass, and it was a really aggressive move, but that was a hungry driver in its perfect definition of how hungry he was and we all sort of all drivers have that somewhere inside them, and it was just a really interesting moment. I wasn't very close with him. Didn't have a friendship, I would say, but that was an impressive moment, and I thought that when I think about him, that's one of the memories that I appreciate the most. I think it said everything about him as a driver, and he liked to race. Always heard about the guy running here and running there, and he had ups and downs in the top tier series as far as the truck series and the nationwide series, but he didn't seem to let that deter him from doing what he liked to do. And if he could be racing somewhere, he was there racing.
Well, I think the biggest thing about Jason is and I've seen a lot of the same thing, talked about and spoken from other drivers, was his passion for racing and how much he loved it. He, it seemed like he was one of those guys that came up through the USAC ranks and would race anything that there was, and that's what he was doing, Wednesday night, was racing anything that he could get in at any given time. And I didn't get to speak to him too much this year just because I haven't seen him, but hearing what other people are saying, he was very excited to be racing the dirt cars as much as he was, and certainly, I think the one thing as race car drivers we can always say is I'm sure that he had a smile on his face and he was doing what he loved when the accident happened, and that's something that I've always looked back to is whenever it is my time, if I'm on the racetrack, then that's where I like to be. That's what I enjoy doing, and that's, I think, the feeling of pretty much everybody in these garages is that's what we do. That's our passion. So, quick Jason story. There's a restaurant in Mooresville that pretty much whenever I wanted to see Jason, I could go there and you could see him at any given point. It was a place called Field of Greens, and I think for the better part of 2 or 3 years, every time I went to that restaurant, and it was usually once or twice a week, Jason was in there, and a lot of the times he had his son with him, and it was kind of funny to think back to that and think, man, you can't go there and see him anymore. So.
Well, the problem is that those cars have such different uniquenesses when it comes to crashes and how to handle those kinds of impacts. They just can't contain their heads, and I don't know what I haven't seen what all the results were that really caused Jason's death. Obviously, we know it was a tremendous crash, and you could see the aftermath of the car. I heard about him having, a Hans type of device on there, which I was happy to hear. But even earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I saw a highlight of the Chili Bowl where there was a car that broke an axle and flipped outside of the track, and I just remember thinking to myself how violent the head movement was in that car when it was going through those flips. And it's just, to me, it's just, they've done a great job. They've done a lot, but it's just so hard to contain when a car is flipping and moving different directions like that. Where our cars, we're usually more predictable as to what impacts are going to happen. I'm not saying you can predict them all, but you don't have cars flying through the air, flipping and doing some of the different movements that those cars do go through. And it seems to me like it is more difficult to prevent some of the angles and impacts that those drivers go through in those cars.
So sad. Jason was such a good guy. He was fun to be around, and it's weird to think that he's not around anymore. Of course it's scary, but we're all racers. We love to go to the racetrack just like he did and compete. It's what we've done our whole lives, and it's probably not going to stop now.
I've known Jason a long time, obviously, and we grew up racing together, and obviously went the same path racing-wise. So, I knew him as a friend, as a roommate, as a teammate. So, I got to be around him a lot. Know that he loved nothing more than being in behind the wheel of a race car. So, was shocked to hear what had happened. And obviously it's just a reminder of how dangerous our sport is. But it's we've had a lot of safety innovations over the last 15 years since I've been in Cup, and it's just proof that I don't know that they'll ever get to the stage where anybody's totally immune to getting hurt in a race car. But that's just the scenario that we're in, and there isn't anybody that gets behind the wheel that doesn't understand that and know that going into it. And Jason was that way as well, and he just loved doing what he was doing. So it was just a rough week there, and obviously his son Charlie, that's the one we're all thinking about the most right now. His girlfriend Juliana, she it's hard for both of those two, and the Amy and their family. So just thinking about all those guys this weekend.